Project Pluto. It was an incredibly destructive, unshielded, nuclear-powered ramjet cruise missile. Developed by the United States military during the Cold War, the program aimed to create a low-flying weapon capable of delivering multiple nuclear warheads over enemy territory. What made it completely different from standard missiles was its propulsion system, which would continuously expel radioactive exhaust across the landscape even after dropping its payload, effectively creating a secondary trail of devastation. It matters in military history because it represents the extreme, often terrifying lengths scientists went to for mutually assured destruction, remaining a popular fascination as the ultimate doomsday weapon that was ultimately deemed too dangerous even for its creators to test fully. Blue Peacock. This was a massive 10-ton tactical nuclear landmine. It originated in the United Kingdom during the 1950s, specifically designed by the British Army to be buried in the plains of West Germany to halt a potential Soviet invasion. What set this weapon apart was its bizarre thermal regulation system, as engineers genuinely proposed storing live chickens inside the casing with a supply of food and water to generate enough body heat to keep the bomb's electronics from freezing in winter. It remains a legendary piece of Cold War history, popular in military circles due to the absurd contrast between an apocalyptic nuclear device and the comical reliance on poultry to ensure its functionality. Panzer VIII Maus. This was a super-heavy tank that weighed an astonishing 188 metric tons. It was conceived in Nazi Germany during the latter half of World War II under the direct orders of Adolf Hitler. What made it entirely different from other armored vehicles was its sheer, impractical size and nearly impenetrable armor, which made it so heavy that it could not cross most bridges and required a specialized snorkel system to drive along the bottom of rivers. The vehicle is incredibly popular among tank enthusiasts and matters historically because it serves as the prime example of Germany's late-war obsession with impractical wonder weapons, showing how engineering hubris ultimately hindered actual military effectiveness. The Sun Gun. This was a theoretical orbital weapon designed to focus sunlight to scorch the Earth below. The concept originated in Germany, initially envisioned by a physicist in 1929 before being researched by military scientists during World War II as a potential tool for global domination. What made it uniquely distinct from conventional explosives was its reliance on a massive concave space mirror constructed from metallic sodium, which would theoretically concentrate solar energy to boil oceans or incinerate cities from a distance of thousands of miles. It matters as an early, terrifying glimpse into the militarization of space, capturing the imagination of the public and pop culture as the quintessential science fiction superweapon long before satellites even existed. Boeing Yao. This was a megawatt-class chemical oxygen iodine laser mounted inside a heavily modified commercial airliner. It came from the United States military in the early 2000s, developed as part of a defense system intended to intercept and destroy tactical ballistic missiles while they were still in their vulnerable boost phase. The defining difference between this and traditional anti-missile systems was its use of directed energy moving at the speed of light to heat and rupture a missile's skin, rather than relying on a physical kinetic interceptor. It matters because it proved that airborne laser weapons were scientifically possible, though its immense cost and logistical impracticality led to its cancellation, cementing its legacy as a futuristic concept that arrived slightly ahead of its time. T-28 Super Heavy Tank. This was an enormously heavily armored castmate-style tank destroyer. It was designed by the U.S. Army during World War II, specifically to breach the heavily fortified defenses of the German Siegfried Line. What made it so unusual was its lack of a traditional rotating turret, instead relying on a fixed forward-facing gun and a unique four-track system to support its massive 86-ton weight over rough terrain. The vehicle is incredibly popular in video games and museums as a fascinating artifact of highly specialized warfare that arrived just a bit too late to see any actual combat. Project Excalibur. This was a proposed nuclear-pumped X-ray laser intended to operate in outer space. It originated in the United States during the 1980s as the centerpiece of President Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative. What made this weapon completely unprecedented was its mechanism, as it required detonating a nuclear bomb in space to instantly channel the resulting radioactive energy into dozens of concentrated X-ray beams aimed at incoming Soviet intercontinental ballistic missiles. It is widely remembered and popular in historical discussions because it highlighted the extreme limits of Cold War defense strategies, pushing the boundaries of theoretical physics while ultimately failing due to the impossible technical challenges of directing a nuclear explosion. Antonov A-40. This was a bizarre hybrid vehicle consisting of a light tank attached to a set of biplane wings and a twin-boom tail. It was developed by the Soviet Union during World War II as a way to quickly deploy armored support to partisan forces operating behind enemy lines. The defining characteristic of this weapon was that it was completely unpowered and intended to be towed into the air by a heavy bomber, then released to glide silently onto a battlefield before the crew shed the wings and drove into combat. It is a prime example of the desperate, outside-the-box thinking of wartime engineering, staying popular among military buffs for its surreal visual design and the sheer audacity of trying to fly a tank.
What did you think of these bizarre military projects? Drop your favorite down in the comments. If you learned something new today, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out. Thanks for watching.